Hello, and welcome to the Eagle's Wing podcast. This is your host, Jason Deuce Brandt, and what we're going to talk about today is some of the things that I wanted to release and to, give encouragement to everyone who's listening to this podcast. The goal is to provide information and wisdom and knowledge and understanding so that you can utilize this and make your life better and take on the wisdom and the experience of others so you can move faster. So I once heard that I was listening to, I believe it was Tony Robbins, and he was talking about how success loves speed. And one of the ways that you can turbocharge your success is to find somebody who has already done what it is that you want to do and follow them. And and if it's something that they offer a book, they offer a course, they offer some kind of program, they offer some kind of mastermind or community. By buying that resource, you are able to access all that wisdom, knowledge, and understanding in a fraction of time that it would take you to acquire it all yourself. Now, here's the thing. You can go out and you can find the information. You can search for it. You can go to your local library. You can go to YouTube and other, streaming services, Rumble, whatnot, and you can gain knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Unfortunately, you don't know if it's going to work. And so a lot of times people will spend a lifetime going down this route of, I'm going to figure it out myself because, I don't want to pay for that guy's program. I don't want to buy that guy's book. I don't want to submit to their way of thinking. And so they go it alone, and you can have success. The challenge is that sometimes it's not just your success, but it takes a lot of time. And so if you could get rapid results in a relatively short time and follow a track, then I believe that it is absolutely worth every penny and more for the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that you're purchasing. Now, when it comes to the Eagle's Wing Academy, my goal is to create a track. I want you to imagine a railroad track. And on this track, if you place your train on the track and follow it, you will be led to success. You will be led to a life and a blessing that you truly want. And a life on your own terms is the blessing. It is the goal. And so one of the things that I think of is, someone has got to build that track. Someone has got to think about the destination. They have to think about the starting point. They need to think about the end point. And then they need to build from point A to point B. And that's something that is done with the Eagle's Wing Mastermind. It's done by thinking about these things. And the way that I like to think about this is, what is the main goal? And so let me put what I think is the ideal kind of life, okay? If I could provide my own children who are currently teenagers in high school, if I can provide for them a track that they could follow that would accomplish these things in their lifetime, it would be absolutely worth it. And I think it's valuable for others. So I think about it like this. They're going to go to high school. They're going to go to school. They're going to get good grades. They're going to learn and they're going to achieve. And eventually, they're going to graduate from high school. They're going to become 18 years old. And that summer of their 18th year, after they've graduated high school, the goal should be get them enrolled in some kind of program to teach them a skill, to teach them a trade that can be a career for the future. So I don't mean some nonsense college program, some, fluff degree, 2-year, 4-year degree that is going to be, obsolete by the time that they're done. The status of college students, the statistics are appalling. And so there's lots of books that talk about this, and there are some really good reasons to go to a traditional college if you know exactly what you want to be, and that requires that kind of degree. You want to be a doctor, a lawyer, some kind of, professional, then yes, you will need a college degree. But the vast majority of people that go to college, they go because they were told since very small that they've got to go to college, go to college, go to college, go to college. And, we drill this into our children, and they go, and they unfortunately do not have good guidance, good mentorship. Parents mean well, family and friends mean well, but there are certain reasons that college should be less of a priority, especially when you're 18. So in this example, let's take my son. He becomes 18. My goal is to get him into a trade program so where he can learn a skill, be it electrician, plumbing, HVAC, truck driving, mechanical engineering, construction, any type of work that requires skill that a person from a foreign country cannot do remotely. That's the work that is not in jeopardy of being overtaken. Now, these skilled trades are numerous. There's a lot of opportunity out there. There's a lot of different training programs. There are millions of jobs that are available. There's very, very high paying, great benefits, and high status jobs that are simply not filled because there aren't enough people wanting to go into these trades. One of the reasons is they're told, go to college, go to college, go to college. And there's almost this distrust or disdain for people that work with their hands, that they are less than the person with a college degree and, fancy piece of paper that says they are educated. Now, the reality is we need skilled people. We need people that have drive and vision. We need people that can fix our plumbing when our toilet is, backed up or the pipe bursts in the wall and our house is flooding. We need people. We need people to fix our air conditioners and make sure we have electricity and that our power lines are functioning. And all of those things, we need garbage men and we need, engineers and we need electricians and all the trades. We need all these people. And we also need other things. We need people that can do welding and even specialty welding. There are people that do this underwater welding and they make insane amounts of money. Now, it is more dangerous and there is more possibility of risk of injury, but life is about risk and reward. And the more risky the work that you do, the more that you're going to get paid and the less likely there's going to be competition of other people that want to do that job. There's a job where a guy every 6 months climbs this giant radio tower, climbs to the top and changes a light bulb. From my understanding, they pay that guy $20,000 to climb to the top of that radio tower and to change the light bulb twice a year. Insane amount of money for one job, but there's very, very low possibility that error doesn't result in total death. And so that's why it's willing to pay so much. But for that guy, he's making really good money. And I'm sure that there's a lot of opportunity for him to just simply change light bulbs. But the guy who, works maintenance for like an apartment complex and changes a light bulb on a one-story building doesn't make as much money because the risk is not that high. And the possibility and the skill level to do such a thing is relatively low. So there's a discrepancy in the amount of money. So I just wanted to say all that because that's the goal of Eagles Wing Academy is to help the next generation to go and get one of these programs, to go to a trade school, to get a certification, to become a welder, an electrician, an HVAC technician, any number of certifications, and then basically teach them how to work, what are good values, to teach them and mentor them what it is that employers want. What are the attitudes? What are the work habits? What are the ethics that you need to be successful? And through that process, the goal should be by the time the end of that year, so if they started in summer of the 18th year, by January of what would be their 19th year, they would have a certification and they would have themselves an entry-level job in one of these trades. Now, here's the thing. We all have to pay our dues in life. And sometimes we have to take a job to gain experience, but we're not stuck there. Now, that let's call it a 19-year-old has their first job in their trade, and they may simply be cleaning up the job site, carrying materials and tools for the person who's mentoring them, who's teaching them. Maybe it's their boss, maybe it's a senior person at that job. But the goal is for the next 12 months of that first job is to fight, claw, scratch, whatever is necessary to keep that job, to be valuable for that employer, to learn all that you can, learn how to use all the equipment, learn how to problem solve, learn how to troubleshoot and debug issues, learn how to operate with others. Because here's the thing, we need relationships. We need to know how to interact with customers, both good and bad customers, because there are both. We need to learn how to work with others, with coworkers, with people that are on our same level, people that are less experienced than us, and those that are above us that are supervising or that have more experience than us. My belief is if somebody knows and is doing and has what you want, and they're willing to tell you, you should be quiet and listen and ask intelligent questions. But whatever they say, this is how we do it that way. Put your own ego and thought of I'm better or I know how to do this to the side and simply listen, because you can learn from that valuable experience. And this is the same as I talked about earlier, is purchasing a program. Someone's willing to invest in you, take it and really enjoy that time. Now, 12 months later, you have continued to get better, you've continued to learn, continued to grow and mature, and now you have this magical thing called 1 year of experience. Now, once you have 1 year of experience, then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go through that process again of, doing the job search, getting your resume, getting, whatever supporting material is necessary, cover letter, introductory letter, references, all those things to line yourself up with the next opportunity. Now, sometimes when we do a good job and we work for somebody and they value us, they will be willing to increase your pay and give you more responsibility. And usually that comes in some form of promotion. If that happens, you can choose to stay at that job. If you're comfortable and you're making good money and you're content and you're learning and you're growing and you get along well with the customers and your boss and your coworkers, and it's something that you're fulfilled in life, yes, stay. Continue in that path, especially if you believe that there's more opportunity to grow, but you're not stuck. Now, through that process of having a year experience, let's just say that you decide that you're going to jump ship into another opportunity. You apply, somebody interviews you, and they offer you, let's call it a pay raise to $50,000 a year. So that first year, whatever you can earn, it's good because you don't have the experience, and your value to that business is probably very, very low. So you're providing a low value, and they're benefiting you by giving you experience and teaching you. So even if you're making $35,000 a year in that first job, it's still good because you can live and you can grow and you can learn. But let's say you're at that 12 months of experience. Now you're 20 years old, and you got an offer from your current boss that they'll raise you to $40,000. But you went out, you applied at other places, and they're willing to offer you $50,000. Well, you can make a decision, move up to the new position, and learn and grow, and start the process over again. Because anytime you go into a new environment, There's going to be people there that are going to be less experienced than you. There's people that are your peer level, that are at your level. And there's those that are above you, that have more experience, that have been doing this for longer. For those people that are into a new environment, basically you're starting over at the bottom. Now, that's not a bad thing. You're making more money. You're possibly doing work that you haven't learned before, and you're learning and you're growing, and it could be exciting, and you could be fulfilling your purpose and feeding your family and all those fun things. And so that at the age of 20, you're now making $50,000 a year. Now, the ideal with the Eagles Wing Academy is to figure out how to quickly get to the $100,000 income or six-figure income. And the goal should be to grow so much that you hit that income roughly about 5 years, but at the most 10 years. And with that kind of income, you start at 30, 35, and you end up, next year you go to 50, and you work another 12 months, and you do the process again with 2 years experience. And either your employer goes and increases your income, gives you a promotion, or you, again, jump ship and you move to another company that's willing to pay you $65,000 a year. So that would be, you're now 21 years old, making $65,000 a year. It's a pretty good income for a single person. With that kind of income, you can have a nice apartment, own your own vehicle, have no debt because you've used the financial wisdom that the Eagles Wing teaches you. So you never get into student loans or credit card or vehicle loan debt. And so you're able to do the things, start and continue to save for your retirement. Now, we can talk about the different steps in finances, but we're just talking about career right now. But at the age of 21, making $65,000 a year would be a great income for a young person. Now, the person who went to college, at this point, they have finally got their degree. It's 2 years later. They went to college for 2 years. They got an associate's degree. And they may be willing to enter into the workforce. Well, they're not going to work. They're not going to start at the same level as you. They're going to have to start at the bottom, just like everybody else. And so now they're 20, 21, and they're making what you made at 19. But now you have experience, and you have an opportunity to continue to grow. Now you continue to grow and you continue to get better, continue to follow the footsteps of those before you. You listen to your boss and your supervisors, and you become so valuable to the company that at the end of that third year, they raise you again to $75,000, $80,000 a year. So now you're 22 years old and you're getting real close to that $100,000 a year income. And so now you should be in some kind of position of supervisor, a lead, somebody who can help train and lead others that are coming up. And you're teaching them how to do the work, becoming way more valuable to your company. You do that for another 12 years. You're into your fourth year. You should be in the 90,000 range at about this point. You should be able to be a foreman, a person who can do scheduling, can deal with customers, can schedule jobs, can make bids, can lead others. And really, you're taking more and more off of your boss or the owner of the company. You're taking on more responsibility, and you're earning more. Now, eventually, you'll become incredibly valuable, and you should have a good reputation at this point for your work ethic and your skill. And so others are going to be looking for you. They're going to be chasing you down, making you incredible offers to come work for them because you've proven yourself. Now, at this point, you're going to be at your fifth year, 23 years old, and now you should be able to negotiate and have $100,000 worth of income coming in. This is absolutely possible. It's absolutely a great opportunity. You're going to be in a place to where you're able to basically do every aspect of the job and to know and to run that entire specialization that you're in. Or maybe you've jumped from, electrician to plumber or to HVAC, or you're doing different things. If you're in the construction trade, maybe you're learning different specialties. You're doing different things. You're doing, concrete work, foundations, and then maybe framing, and then roofing, and drywall, electrician, duct work, so on and so forth. But each skill that you add, you become way more valuable. But after that fifth year, you got 5 years of experience, 23 years old, with an income of $100,000 a year. At this point, you can start thinking about saving up for your home, moving from an apartment to buying your own home, saving up 20-30% for a down payment and purchasing your first starter home, 1-2 bedroom house, nothing spectacular, but something that's yours, and buying an asset that will grow and that will pay for itself or pay an increase in the future. And so the way that you become wealthy is you gather assets. Now at this point, you save up from 23 to 24. You save up, let's call it $50,000. You save half of your income, making a six-figure income, $100,000 a year. You save up $50,000 for a down payment, and you put it towards your home. You get yourself a 15-year fixed rate mortgage, and at this point, you should be completely debt-free. You should have an emergency fund of 36 months of your expenses. You shouldn't be contributing 15% of your income to retirement. And this might be around the time you start thinking about, finding, maybe you found a relationship and you're thinking about starting a little family, maybe getting married and having children and all those things that are possible as you mature and you grow through life. And so having a home, having a stable work life, having a great income, having a solid foundation to where you are continuously growing, continuously getting better. 24 years old, you move into this house, and basically, if you were to continue the path, I would assume that your income would continue to increase. You'd continue to build your skills and become more valuable. But let's say we fast forward a couple years, and now you're 30 years old. You've completely paid off that house because you paid it off early, because you had income, you had the ability, you had no debt. So now you own that small little house, maybe a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, and you're married, and you've got one kid, and your wife is pregnant. You're going to have your second kid, and the house is getting a little small, a little crowded. Well, at this point, you could have saved up another down payment and went into your dream home. And in that dream home, literally, you can either build your dream home, you could buy a dream home, you could, go into a new neighborhood. You can, if there was a home that when you were growing up that you were like, man, if I could only own that house, that could be something that you work towards. But here's the thing. You basically continue the process. And with a 6-figure income, you could earn enough and allow your spouse, your wife, to stay at home and take care of the household, to raise the children, to take care of you. And that is, I think, is ideal, is we build up strong communities, we build up strong families, and we become good citizens of our city, state, and country. And so from 30 to 40, you can focus on completely paying off that dream home. Your kids are growing. They're going through elementary and then high school, and you'll have money. You could put it aside, and either you could put them through the same kind of trade school that you went through, a skill, or maybe they want to be some kind of professional. Maybe they want to be a veterinarian or a doctor or some kind of professional that requires a 2-4 master's or doctorate degree. And what you can do is you can bless them with no student loans, no debt. You can put them into life in a way that is changing your family's future because you made good decisions when you were younger. Now, eventually, your children are going to be grown. They're going to be leaving the house. You're going to be getting a little bit older. At this point, if you're valuable to an employer, you'll continue to work. You continue, at that job, and you'll be able to choose how you want to live, You can give and you can live and you can experience life in a way that is absolutely spectacular. Some people retire early, meaning that they don't have to work. I want you to imagine if at 40 years old, you had made enough wise decisions over the past 22 years, right? 18 to 40, that you have saved up enough in your retirement account and it has grown and you've got $5 million in your retirement account, or by the time you're 65, it will have grown to $5 million. And you own your house, you own your cars, you own everything. Nobody can take it away from you. You're in control. You get to go. You want to go to vacation to some far off destination. You want to go to Hawaii or, Indonesia or Asia or Africa, Antarctica, wherever. You have the ability to do it. And maybe you see the world, or maybe you give big to your church. You help out widows and orphans, and you have a great ministry. You buy bikes for kids for Christmas. You feed people during Thanksgiving. Any number of things are possible because you will not only have the income, but you'll have the savings, you'll have the retirement, you will be able to do amazing things. And so basically, once you start on a good path, usually what we do is we fall into the habit, and if we have good habits, we will get good results. Now, I want to talk about another path. Let's say you've worked from 18 to 30. You have 10 solid years of experience doing the thing that you want to do. Well, one of the other things that is possible and that you could do is you could negotiate with that boss, with that owner of that company. Maybe they want to retire. Maybe they want to enjoy their 60s and 70s. And so perhaps you could buy their business, and there's ways to do it where maybe you don't have $1 million to buy the business, but perhaps you could negotiate a deal with them to where they teach you how to run the business, and they teach you all the management and the HR and the marketing and all those things, how they've grown the business. And you work side by side with them with the intention of buying the business, but using the profits from the business to pay for the business. And let's say it's a 5-year deal to where the first 2 years they teach you how to operate and run the business, and you get a little boost in your salary, your income. But then after those 2 years, so you're 32 years old, and they take a step back from actively managing and running the entire business, but they're still there. But you're now more in a leadership position, and you're able to kind of run and work the business, and they're able to kind of take the foot off the gas a little bit and kind of lean back while you lean in. They see that you're competent, you're doing well in that 3rd year. The 4th year, they come and they go, you know what? I want to work dramatically less in the business. I want to spend time with my wife. Maybe there's some family or health issues, or there's reason that they need to spend time away from the business, but you're there to run and operate the business and keep the machine going. Then by that 5th year, they have completely exited the business, and you've run the business, and you've used wisdom, knowledge, and understanding in different programs, and you have continued to grow in personal development and business and professional development, that you've paid them their $1 million that they wanted for the business. They've completely exited. The business is 100% yours. 35 years old. You own an electrical company, electrical business, or plumbing business, and it's all you now. Now here's the thing. As a business owner, you can earn way more than you could as an employee, but there is more risk. There is more challenge. There is more, stress and worrying about how you're going to pay your people and attract good talent and all those things. Yes, it is. It's a different trade-off than when you're an employee and you just work for somebody. But the upside could be way more. And at 35, you're not even halfway through life yet. At this point, the sky's the absolute limit. You could be a multi-millionaire. You could own $1 million home, pool in the backyard, own an RV, go on vacations to incredible places, experience the world, eat the finest of foods, wear the nicest of clothes. If that's what it means for you to be successful, and that's your dream, you and your wife and your family, then that is a success. Or maybe you don't want all that, but you just want to be financially independent, where nobody can take anything away from you, and that you have enough income to where you cover your bills, and that's enough, and that to you is a success. If that is the case, then you are a success. My point is, that's our goal with Eagles Wing Academy, is to provide throughout that entire process the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. We go through and we find great materials and we vet them, and we find good speakers, and we find people that are doing it, and we find mentors, and we find adult people that are mature to come in. They're the Eagles, and Eagles help out the next generation. And maybe that's you at 30, 35, where you're giving back to the community, you're mentoring, you're finding your next generation of employees, because you've gone through the process and you go, man, I really want to have the same kind of employees that are coming from this program. I'm going to hire Eagles Wing Academy graduates. Perhaps that is, a great cycle. And the proof is what's possible. The proof is, let's do it. Let's see, what can we do if we made good choices? Now, the world is going to tell you to do all kinds of incredibly stupid things. They're going to tell you to borrow money on things that lose value constantly. You can have whatever you want right now. You can have that, fancy car and all the clothes, and you can go on vacations, and you can have the nicest TV and games and computers and blah, 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 all the above. And you only have to pay a small payment. Well, what happens is you're making somebody else wealthy. They're using you to enrich themselves. I'm suggesting that you take on a little bit more discipline in the beginning, and it might be hard, and it might be something that you're not used to. These experiences may be a challenge for you, but through that process, once you gain discipline, once you start it, it's easy to maintain it. It's just a matter of getting on the track and then believing that it will take you where you want to go. So that's a great vision statement of what I want to do with this Eagles Wing Academy. And I encourage you to join me. I encourage you to come to our events, to see what we have, and to submit yourself to the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that we have already proven to be value to others and a good track to run. So with that, this is Jason Deuce Brandt. I want to thank you for taking this 40 minutes in this podcast. And I love your feedback, so leave a comment and contact us right away. Until the next time, have a great day. Goodbye.